Mayor Pete takes aim at Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders' plans for free college. And we are diving now into the 2020 hopefuls' rates on social media.
We are back with Democratic strategist Deshandra Jefferson and Republican strategist Holly Turner. All right, so Pete Buttigieg has been carving out this lane. He's trying to be the Joe Biden alternative. He's the moderate. He's pragmatic. He's reasonable. That's his whole thing. And he's going directly after Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren's free college plans, which are more universal, so you're not testing incomes for their plans. Let's take a listen to his new ad where he takes aim.
I believe we should move to make college affordable for everybody. There are some voices saying, well, that doesn't count unless you go even further, unless it's free even for the kids of millionaires. But I only want to make promises that we can keep. Look, what I'm proposing is plenty bold. I mean, these are big ideas. We can gather the majority to drive those big ideas through without turning off half the country before we even get into office. And that, I think, is the best governing strategy, as well as what it's going to take in order to win. And Lord knows we got to win.
So, Deshandra, interestingly, he says, oh, we're not going to pay for the kids of millionaires. He's also not going to pay for the kids of anyone who makes more than $100,000.
Yeah.
It's a much lower threshold than he leads you to believe there.
Oh, definitely.
Second of all, I have this thing about universal programs versus means tested is actually really important. When we've means tested social programs, they've always been vulnerable to attack. Yeah. They're smeared as welfare. They're for those people, not for good, hardworking, real Americans, and they get undercut. And that's what we've seen throughout the history of America. That's why Social Security and Medicare are so popular, because everyone gets it, everybody feels invested, everyone has a stake in the program's success. So this fight is actually a really important one.
Well, first of all, let's look at what $100,000 is. That's 2 teachers right there who are married.
Right.
So what,
So
they're not rich.
$100,000 is nothing in New York City. Right?
I mean,
so as for we are living in an increasingly urban country. Like that's literally no money.
It is no money, and it's very little, you know. And so I think there's a lot of disingenuousness about his plan. Again, he's trying to find an opening to attack Elizabeth Warren specifically because he right now sees her as his main competition. Perhaps to get some of these white progressives. He feels maybe he could pick a few of them off of Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah,
which is what he has been doing.
It's worked.
It has worked.
Yeah. I don't know, Holly. I mean, don't think it seems like the right fight to pick. Look, you have younger voters who are predominantly behind Bernie Sanders, and in some respects, Elizabeth Warren. I mean, if you're trying to turn off the younger electorate, this seems like the best fight to pick. So maybe he's going after older people who are very much like, I don't want to pay for kids' college educations.
Why should I pay for Donald Trump's
kids
$0?
But it's
that was Hillary's line.
But his plan is still billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's
right.
not. It's almost as though it's benefiting fewer people. It's a higher cost per person. In the end, it's politically, it's a loser.
But why do the simple thing when you can do something that's much more complicated?
Like, well, we'll cap it at 100,000, and we all know it'll be like state indexed per poverty wage.
Absolutely.
It's poll tested. I mean, when you're talking about, Pete Buttigieg, he's trying to be the alternative to Biden. This is what he's looking for. He's trying to find something that is a good soundbite that sounds good, but don't dig too deep and ask too many questions.
I don't think people care about the college tuition thing. That is not like the animating difference, right? Like the animating difference. What's the number one issue? Healthcare. That's it. Why does Biden attack Bernie and Warren on healthcare? Because it works actually for him. That's how he differentiates himself in the field. This is not an issue where I see people actually going after.
The only people who are voting on this are young people,
and they're all with Bernie.
All the way with Bernie on this one.
Right.
So it seems hard to. It's hard to understand what mileage he's really picking up here.
I just don't really get it.
And maybe he, again, is trying to go for some of those older voters. Like, see, okay, I do believe in helping young people out, but I'm going to keep it costs under control for you.
Let's not be crazy, guys. Let's not go too wild.
But he's going to miss. He's losing that middle class, middle America, blue collar worker. A dual income household that's, to your point, 2 teachers or a firefighter. And they're disqualified from this, so he's immediately going to lose their support.
He's hoping they're not going to ask questions again.
Right.
Yeah, and I think AOC had a decent tweet about this. Where first she accused it as a GOP talking point, but anyway, she said just like rich kids can attend public school, they should be able to attend tuition-free public college. Later on in that thread, what she actually talks about, Holly, is that a lot of these kids, rich kids, they want to go to private schools anyway, so free tuition doesn't even apply to them. It really is. I do think it's very disingenuous for him to attack it as free college for millionaires and billionaires. And again, I don't understand the political benefit that he's getting out of it. I just don't see
There is
any.
none. It was a bad move.
And you can understand too, if you think about it in terms of public education and K to 12, how different that system would be if it was only free for people who made less than $100,000. You'd create a two-tier system. You'd make it so that rich kids only went to private schools, because why should they go to public school when they have to pay for it, right? And so you can see how it would really degrade the entire university system if you went about it that way.
Right.
At the same time, this was interesting from Axios. They had a piece analyzing social media interactions for all of the candidates. We can throw the headline up here. And of all the candidates, Michael Bloomberg, who just jumped in, who has negligible support at this point, but a whole lot of money behind him, is getting more social media interactions than anyone save Biden, Bernie, Warren. He's number 4. Now, I would be interested to know how much of that is positive and how much of it is
overwhelmingly negative, in my opinion.
But Holly, he's definitely capturing some attention and interest online. And I would also throw into this the fact that the media has treated him very favorably, I would say, as he has launched this quixotic bid.
Yeah, he has been talked about over and over and over again on every major news channel, more than any other candidate when they announce. So he's definitely getting the good treatment from the media. But also, these poll numbers, I think we need to give it another week or so, and then look at poll numbers to see where he is. And the social media stuff, I get it, but that's very easy to manipulate too.
Totally.
And a well-funded campaign can easily go and jack those numbers up.
Which is what
not even using bots. I mean, there are firms out there that will do this organically.
He spent, what, 37?
He's a Russian asset.
I'm not saying that.
He's a Chinese asset.
There you go.
Okay, so he's got $37 million ad buy to Shunter. I mean, I think really what this does show is that, okay, you can't buy yourself the nomination. You can buy yourself, as Tom Steyer did, a place on the stage. You could buy yourself a massive amount of media attention. I think that's gross. I actually think it turns people off quite a bit more, which is that, you can capture the entire media class, because most of them have lived in New York and have some personal experience with Michael Bloomberg, and you can just rock it on up to number 4 in the polls.
I mean, you can buy yourself a lot of nice things, but at the end of the day, you can, you're buying earned media.
Yeah, you are.
But are you really connecting with voters? No. Do you really have the ground game that you need to win? Do people really look at you favorably? At the end of the day, he's getting in very late, and he's got a lot of hurdles. He's got a lot of obstacles.
Yeah, and in 2016, we saw that more money didn't guarantee a win.
No, it's not going to guarantee.
So maybe in a primary, it does have an impact, but when it comes down to the general election, it's not.
He doesn't have a relationship with a lot of the groups that he needs to have relationships with, and he's a bigger opportunist than Pete Buttigieg. I mean, really. I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, I'm independent. I'm back to being a Democrat.
He apologized for stop and frisk.
Whatever. I mean, I lived in Bloomberg's New York. I think he was an okay mayor. I'm not in love with him. I certainly think that there are other better candidates on that stage. I don't know what his rationale is. He needs to have a very compelling narrative.
His favorability is very low among the Democratic electorate. However, I do want to say, anyone, like Sagar was saying, anyone who can spend he can spend an infinite amount of money. I mean, more money than, he could spend $1 billion if he wanted to, and it wouldn't even make a dent in his overall net worth. Anyone who can spend that kind of money, he's never going to be the nominee. Can he impact the direction of the race? Potentially. Potentially. I could see him in Iowa and New Hampshire taking some percentage points maybe off of Pete, who's trying to play this, centrist lane. Well, Bloomberg can come in. Look, you were mayor of South Bend. I was mayor of New York City. And people actually liked what I did there. So, it's a slightly more compelling case to make than Pete has, I would say.
Yeah, looking at those numbers, maybe I need to be nicer to Bloomberg and say, you're wonderful, you're great, you can win. Give me a job. Throwing away that kind of money, I could take some right here.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm going to be honest, again, I think you're being generous. I think he can maybe take a few percentage points from people. I think he's going to be a blip on the radar.
He's probably capped at 5.
Kamala's state director, who resigned from her campaign, has taken the Bloomberg ticket, I guess. At least
it's a big check. It's a fat check.
She needs a job.
But those are the little things that we're not counting, right? Like, that's not an ad buy, but that's taking infrastructure away from other candidates. Is it discouraging some of those super PAC donors from writing that check to Biden, right?
Could
so
be.
There are implications and down the road that it's not just about spending money on TV.
It must be nice to be the 9th richest man in America.
Well, he won't be
after this. Trust me, he ain't going to make any dent in his net worth. All right, thank you guys.
Thanks,
really
ladies.
appreciate it. Tomorrow on Rising, Team Rising will weigh in on all the latest news that's going to inevitably happen over the next 24 hours.
And don't forget to send in all your burning questions to us using the hashtag RisingQs. We will see you back here tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.